Okay, I've had a bit of a closer look at this form, and it's pretty bodgy, so I think I'll put a bit more tape on the front and the back just to hold it while I remove it and handle it. So, again, I haven't really done this for a while, so pretty unpracticed. This is going to be rough. But I'm just going to like alternating piece of tape here and try and get a little bit flatter. And the wrinkles in one will hold the wrinkles in the other layer. And hopefully I won't have to worry about it. So I'll push those buggers down real hard, and they'll pretty much do what you want them to do. The fun fact about all this is you're using the same directional forces as you will later when you're lasting, so it's informative on that one. But generally you just want to get through it. Put a bit more in here because I've never used this tape before and it feels rather flimsy. So a single layer is not going to really hold its dimensionality very well. So the important thing about the second layer is you want shorter pieces going, at 90 degrees to your original pieces. But it's pretty basic. It doesn't really matter how you do this. I remember asking one of my teachers, what's the best way to cut a pattern? He said it doesn't matter, as long as your result is good. I don't care if you spit on a piece of paper to get a pattern, as long as it works. It's about this time I stopped using the proper clicking mouse. So, this particular piece is following a line of force from the top of the cone and actually showing me where, like if I'm making a strappy sort of sandal, this is a good indicator of where you'd want your strap to go over the top of your foot. So I do get, even though this seems like just roughly slapping tape on, you still get a bit of information for free. And if you're not practiced at this, you should be looking for as much free information from your work as possible. The other thing it's telling me is that this whole point of the part of the last is basically flat with a slight curve in it, which we're going to exploit later when we cut the pattern. Get the arch, just pull it and rub it in. Damn focus. Just roll it under. I do want a bit more tape on the toe, because the toe is hideous. One more across the band. Band. It's not a band. These bits are actually really hard. So you get both sides and just from the outside just lay it down and it'll go mostly flat. Just stretch it down and stretch it over. And that is good. Let's fold it over. Almost done. Like I said, if you've done a form and you've had some practice, especially on the same last, you can abbreviate this step immensely. Put one piece of tape on. Hell, if you're really smart, you create one form, you test it thoroughly, and then you never make another form for that last again, and all your subsequent patterns are developed from the same form. So there's a lot of good practical manufacturing reasons to actually make a good form and keep it for future reference. And that last piece of tape's probably all I need. And now I've got a really solid coat of form all over. Just roll it over. And that'll be beautiful. If you really want to get pedantic about all the wrinkles, you can actually just sort of rub them out. It's just an old machining hammer. But like I said, you don't need to. You're done at this point. That's it. Alright. And then you just clean it all up. Crumbs. It's been so long. How long has it been since I actually made a real pattern for the company? It's been a while. You've got to have a sharp knife when you do this. One thing that you absolutely should not compromise is an absolutely razor sharp knife, which this brand of knife is. It's a Alpha blade. These things are beautiful. They're the sharpest things I've ever found, and they will improve your cutting vastly just by having a really ultra sharp tool. It'll speed things up, and a real sharp knife will be able to do amazing things like just run along this feather line almost perfectly accurate, and in a fraction of the time it takes even a rasp. Alright, run off there, and there's basically nothing else here, and you know, practice, a lot of practice. Trying to remember it all. But it's a lot like riding a bike. You don't really forget. You know? You lose your calluses, and that's about it, really. Still pretty much hitting this line. And this is, well, This is how I was taught by my teachers at school to cut a feather line in a form. You can use a rasp, however, I found a rasp is pretty inaccurate. It gives you about 3 millimeters of rough that you're left with that you've got to deal with, and that can be significant. Cutting it like this, you can reduce that down to less than 2 millimeters. Let's see. And 2 millimeters is sort of, in production, is sort of the resolution that you're dealing with. Because the next machine that the pattern goes on will be the grading machine. And unless you're doing these on computer, they're going to have a needle which is 2 millimeters. So the machine just can't read anything smaller than 2 millimeters. So when I was in the factory, I used to use that to really shortcut the whole process. So you can still sort of see my center line, and honestly, the more time you spend on your center line, the better. Again, I've done 1,000 of these. I'm not too worried about it. This is not going to be a real shoe. No boss sitting over my shoulder going, get that center line straight. But still, practice should give me an almost perfect center line. And the more times I go over it, the more confident I can be that I've got that. So I've bowed it back out this way this time because it sort of looks better. And look, artistic style comes in here because you see, I just draw lightly and just heavily, slowly build up a line, and that way I can push it without being very accurate. So, you know, I'm sort of looking at this side of the line is more accurate than this side of the line, which has sort of fallen off the edge. But it's really hard to see that.